any. James didn't watch any. Pete, how much did you watch?
I listened to about
Okay.
half hour.
Okay. Okay. So we're gonna spend about almost an hour, even though we're not going to go a whole hour into it. I think we need to go into the first 45 minutes or so to get a feel for what he's saying. Now, like any video or any information that comes upon us, we run it up the flagpole, right? Lord, is this right? Is this right? But what you'll see, at least for me, he confirms things the Lord's already said to me. Many things that the Lord said to me, but I wasn't sure, right? I'm waiting for that confirmation from the Lord. So he confirms many of those things. So before we look at that, I want to talk a little bit more about radios and their importance and what we're doing on them. You guys see my chart where your house is in relationship on this map? This is Mark, James, it's the peninsula. Here's Tim over here, and Catherine. Here's Karen. Here's Jean. Here's Tia. Here's Pete, and here's Dylan. Okay? And then there's the miles of how far each one of you are from me. You can look at it. Let me turn around. And you can see, Karen, you're about 3.4 miles. And these are in a straight line. James, you're a half a mile. And, yeah, you can just pass it around and look at it. So those are, I think, Pete, yours is the second to the longest.
Oh, he's going as the crow.
It is the longest. How far is yours from me? Because these are only from me. Your
10.1 is from me.
Yeah, 10.1. Dylan's 10.8. So all that means and tells us that each one of us with a GPRS radio and a good antenna that reached a height that make a line of sight would be able to connect, particularly if I have a base. But now here's the thing is, it's going to cost us some money to maybe get that quality. And I want to be able to give you an idea what it will cost to reach the guarantee level. I'm not even sure I'm guaranteed, so I'm taking it in a progress. So at the very least, I recommended all of you get 2 radios, and you can see Pete's right here. These are the, you can get 2 of these with 2 chargers, and these are the maximum power you can put out in a handheld radio, 5 watts.
That's it.
Yeah, but not on GMRS, just on the other channels. So, a handhold, you might be able to figure out how to get 8 watts out of it, but a handhold is limited by the law to 5 watts. Now, the thing is this 5 watt radio with a good antenna and good cable will hit everybody. You don't need more than 5 watts to go 20 miles. And we're less than 20 miles from all of us. The problem is line of sight. So that means that your radio antenna has to be high enough in elevation that it can make a direct line without obstruction from that spot to someone else's radio. And so you can see on mine, those are all the distance on mine. And so talking about elevations, I'm only at 165 feet. So at 165 feet, I am the lowest because I'm in a hole of anybody. So what that means is that for you guys to even hit me, I've got to get my antenna up really, really high. So I've been working on this. I've been asking the Lord. I called my friend. Well, he just called me tonight. Said tomorrow he's coming. He's going to stem my tree off for me. And then we'll measure and I'll be able to buy my cable, coax. And I already ordered my antenna. And then next time he comes, we'll hang it. And I'll be able to start shooting. And then you guys can take your radios, hook your antennas on it, and see if we can make connections. Tia.
What about lightning strikes?
They do. Yes. What
Is
about?
that going to take your stuff out?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Lightning strike takes out the electrics. We can't stop that. And remember, in this business that we're in, working for the Lord, there are no guarantees. We just walk doing the Lord's will and let him take care of everything else, right? I mean, but yeah, lightning strike will. But we can put lightning arresters on your antenna, which will reduce the chance of your radio getting burned up.
Is that like a grounding thing?
Yeah, that's a grounding thing that goes to your existing grounding rod. And I can tell you how to do the whole thing. I know the pieces and all. So there is something we can do. But here's the thing, for this radio to work, this is the antenna cable we got to connect it to. This is an M connection. That's all we're getting, M connection on 400 wire. That's the minimum. If you're over 30 to 50 feet, depending upon the base station, you got to go to a bigger wire. And I'm going to a really big wire. My wire will probably cost me $800. But for my radio to work, I've got to spend the money. And if you don't spend the money, you still get the antenna, you buy all the parts, and then you find out that you kinked out on the cable. But if you only need a 30-foot cable like this one is, this is all you need. And I got this on a good deal. This was under $100 for a 30-foot cable with connectors on it. But to hook it to your radio, now you have to get an adapter. And it goes from M female, to whatever this is. And I haven't figured out what this is yet. And that's part of the problem. I haven't figured out what this is yet. And to this, and then you would screw it on your radio. And then that would hook to your antenna. So I'll find out what that is, and I'll be able to tell you what that adapter is. And I'm going to order me one real soon, and then you'll see how that works. And James, you already have these same radios, right? Okay. So Pete's got them. Kia's getting them. You got them.
What's its name?
That one, that's a Boefing.
So, like,
Boefeng.
Baofeng.
Boefing.
Okay.
5 UR, right?
$47 for 2 right now. It's that time deal.
That's a 5RU. Tia, can you send that to her, the link?
Yeah, but not right now.
Yeah, but you just send it to her link. Okay, so that's it. So my plan, the way I'm working this, is to keep your costs down as low as possible. I'm the low guy. I've got to get my antenna way up the tree. So tomorrow, my friend, I'm going to get him. He's the blind guy. He's a brother in Christ. He's blind, legally blind. Yes, it's amazing. It's a miracle to watch.
Is this Lee?
Lee Wheeler. Yeah,
I love Lee
I do too.
and May both. They're
Yeah,
the sweetest-
good people.
They're
Good
the
people.
sweetest people.
So I'm going to go to Lee. He's going to climb my tree, cut all my branches down, then we're going to measure it. Then I'll be able to order my cable. So Lord provided that. So once I get mine up and running, then I'll be pushing out. Then you guys can, which I'm hoping soon. But in the meantime, get your radios and think about where your antennas is. I'll tell you what I believe your ideal antenna height is at this time. Now it could differ.
Hey, buddy.
Aye.
How is Lee going to see if you're high enough?
He's going to the top.
Yeah, but he's blind.
Yeah, well, I have an extension. I have a 200 or 300 foot cord. He hooks it and drops it. And then when
But if you've got trees in front of you,
he's not dropping the tree, he's just dropping branches.
I know. That's not what I'm saying.
Oh, you mean sight?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to be high enough. I'm not going to reach what I want to reach.
No, but him.
I can only get what I can get.
But how does he do it if he can't see?
Well, because he can see, he just can't drive. You know, he can see you, he can't drive. He's legally blind.
He's legally blind, but
He's legally blind.
he's able to.
Yeah, he can
He's
see.
not completely blind.
Yeah, he's not completely.
Yeah.
When you look at his eyes, you wonder how he can see it all. And he wears these big coat glasses. And they're all white.
And how will he know when he gets there? It's like the two guys who were measuring a wart. You know, one of them measured how wide the boards were, and the other one measured the gap between the boards. They had one board and one slit, and one board and one slit, and one board, and the guy fell in the water. And the moral of the story is, when you're out of slits, you're out of piers.
Yeah. So he's going to go as high as he can. We'll measure it, and we'll see
And
what
when he
I've
runs out
got.
of branches, he's
Now-
caught.
I'm going to give you these numbers real quickly. But I spent hours going to each of your houses and checking the elevation, going over a map, making sure, shooting azimuths on the map. So I'm going to tell you what your elevations are.
My dogs are freaking out when you were
Why
there.
did you do this? You've been on a road trip for a couple years.
This is before I went. Okay, so I'm a contractor. This is what I love doing. Did I ever tell you
how
this?
high am I?
Okay, you're 190 high.
What
Okay.
day of the week?
Mark's at 160 foot. These are elevations at off the water, 160 feet. These are relatives. These aren't exact numbers. To hit a ridge, the highest ridge on the peninsula is 320 feet, plus trees. Now, fortunately, these things with enough power will zip through kind of trees. So what that means is for Mark to get to that height, he's got to go another 160 feet in height. I don't have that much tree. But what I have, I'll find out. Then I'll make me an extension and we'll go on the top of the tree. Then I'll put my antenna on it. I'll get it as high as I can. And that's the best Mark can do. And I assure you this one thing. I'll be able to hit James. I may not be able to hit anybody else, but I'm going to sure I'll be able to hit James. So James is at 190. So you can see I can hit James. I'll be going down on James. For James to clear everything that he really needs to clear, he needs to go 250. That's a 60-foot antenna. But he may not. We may not all be able to connect to everybody. That may not be critical, long as we can hit a primary person and a secondary person if possible. And we'll talk about tonight why this is important and what our job is going to be, because the Lord has now told me what our job is going to be. So communication is critical. Karen, you're at 180. You need to go to 240. That would be 60-foot antenna above your floor. If you could go higher, you could hit everybody.
That's the house that's at 180?
Yeah. Roughly. These are just generals. So if you convince Marv, I would say, Marv, could you put a 100-footer up? Or I'd say, can you find a tree this tall? And then you would be able to.
Or a shop.
Yeah. So you would be able to hit Tia, James. Those two for sure. Probably Jean. Tia, you're at 250. She's actually high, but she's got so many trees around. It would be nice if she can get her antenna at 300, which would be at 50 foot above her floor. So 40 foot above her roof, maybe even in a tree. Now, these are what I consider ideals. If we could get these ideals, you can hit 2 to 3 different people. If she can't get that high, she says, all I can do is put it on an antenna pole on the end of my house. After John is sufficiently scared enough that he wants one, she could still get away with that. Gene's at 202. Gene would make the best repeater. If we built a repeater, he would be the repeater. But unfortunately, Gene's got trees that are in his way, and he'd have to go almost 290 feet to hit everybody. But if we had a 100-footer at Gene's, he could hit everybody.
Add another 100 foot to where he's at.
Yeah, where he's at currently. Now, these are just ideals. That doesn't mean we're going to have to hit these. We'll find out how close to these ideals we have to get to still be able to communicate. Pete's at 370. Pete is the highest. But unfortunately, there is a stinking ridge that's 320 feet between him and me and him and Karen. But he might be able, and James, but he could hit Tia, and he could probably hit Jean. So if Pete, because of where he lives, if he can just get it up on his gable end or on one gable end, I think that's the best we can get there. But if we had the ability, I'd say, hey, let's put a 40-footer on top of your roof. So Dylan's at 335, but he's in a hole, and that hill, he's got to get over that hill, which is 320. So he's got to go almost 60 feet on top of there to be able to get above those trees to shoot down to us. And then Tim is in a good position, but he's got a lot of trees in the way. He's at 160. He's probably got to go to 220. He could, if he's trying to get in a tree. If he gets in a tree, he'll be good. So you can see we all
So
got,
Tim's the same height as you.
Tim's the same height as
So how
I.
much more does
So
he need?
you two can just yell
Pardon?
at each other across the
But
water.
unfortunately, he's got some big trees in the way.
Yell loud.
Are those the trees that are on the water right there, probably?
Yeah, so like in your roof, if you could look at straight, if you're standing, if your antenna's on your roof, and you're standing on your roof and you look straight, if you could see no trees, you'd have perfect sight to me. As long as I get up above these trees, which I'm trying to get up above. So those are ideals. So we'll see what that goes. Okay, so this cable here is the kind of cable, and the antenna that I'm recommending, which is cheap, that's $50, and it appears to work very good, is this one. And I'd recommend you get it. This is the antenna. They make it out of copper. It's made for 420 to 450 megahertz. That's what our radios are. It's got an M connector. You just see this one comes stick straight out, but I bought my cable with the 90, so it screws straight onto it and then comes down to my radio and adapts. So this is the one I would recommend everybody get. There are other options and there are better, more expensive options, but I believe this one will work very good. And it's not very big. I think it's 5 feet. Let's see what it says. It's like right here. You can see there's one. It's called a J-pole. This one's $50. Here's a J-pole for $40. Here's a J-pole for $41. And it weighs a pound. Doesn't weigh much. It's a base station radio. It is 50 ohms. Doesn't quite say what size it is, but I think it's less than 5 feet. It's 4 or 5 feet. Light. It can be put on a piece of PVC pipe or a piece of metal pipe. That metal pipe attached to something. Run the cable and it works. But it's important. As high as possible is always the best. The higher the better. Okay, any questions about that? That one, they sell them. They're called J-poles. They sell them anywhere from $40 to $60, depending who you buy them from. I ordered one. J-pole. FRS radio, and if you need a link, I could send you a link out. Now there's some better ones. I ordered a better one, but the guy's got to make it, and he's supposed to send me a bill, an invoice, and he hasn't for that radio, and for that antenna he has not. So I didn't want to wait on him. If he does send it to me, I'm going to get a second one because I have no problem.
Okay, because I'm Simple Simon in my brain.
Yeah.
So if I ordered this antenna, it'll work with those.
Yeah, once you get an
ones
adapter.
I just ordered.
Yeah, once you get an adapter.
Right. Which you're gonna help me get an adapter.
Yeah,
and
yep,
cable.
yep.
Does that come with the cable?
No.
No. Okay.
Cable is specific for where you're mounting. So wherever you decide you can mount your antenna, that's as high as I can make it. I'm going to mount it right there. Then the next thing you look at, where's your radio going to be? Should be in the house. So then we measure from that connector down through the side of your house or through a window or however to where your radio is. And then you get a whip. The whip would be at least 1 foot. It's thinner and smaller, so it moves, because this don't move very good. And you get the wick maybe 5 feet or 10 feet, depending upon each of your application. It'll help each of you with that application once you decide where your antenna is going to go. Any other questions on that?
So you hook up that cable, now how does it get into your house?
This side hooks to the antenna. This side comes down to your house.
Okay, but you don't go through the wall with that.
You can go through the wall. You can go down the wall. You can stick it through a window. You can drill a hole through the wall. Whatever you want to do, but you got to get in the house.
Yeah,
Or
right.
can you leave it right outside the door and then just hook in when you need to?
Yes, you can.
Okay, that's an option if you don't want to bust the hole.
Yes, you can. Though I would advise you, if we're going to make this work, you got to be able to keep your radio on all the time,
Oh, okay. Makes
and
sense.
you got to be able to hear it.
Channel mode.
Okay, so if it isn't on, when Mark's yelling, Pete, 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 I got a problem, he's not going to hear me. Okay, so you have to be able to someplace where you're going to hear it. I recommend the kitchen or living room. Where you put it is up to you.
That radio connects to that cable.
No, it needs an adapter.
I know it.
But yes.
That whole one.
Yeah, it will. Now, if you want something better than that, buy a base. A base can have up to 50 watts, 10 times the power of this one. So all those trees you got to blast through, this don't blast through them. If it's open space, it'll hit it, but it don't blast through trees. 50 watts will blast through some of those tree branches. And so the more power you have, the better you're going to be. It won't blast through a mountain, but it will blast through the tree branches. So that's where a base comes in handy. And you can get a base for under $200 and up. A base unit. FRS base unit. Okay? So like that one that I told you I was ordering, the guy's custom building out of an old government Motorola, but you can buy them for under $200. 40 watt base, $170 plus tax. So if you get a base, you're going to be able to go further. But I almost caution you, though it'd be good to get a base, we really don't know about your antenna performance until we have the ability to broadcast from here and you have the ability to receive it. I mean,
From somebody.
yeah, from somebody. Theoretically, it's always going to be better to have more watts. But the truth of the matter is you can't get through a mountain. You can get through buildings, and you can get through trees, but you can't get through mountains.
Well, there's also the question, my question would be, which is less expensive? Getting a base or running $500 with a cable?
Well, the thing is, you can have 10 bases all connected in series, and you won't get out. You have to have the antenna. The antenna is 95% of this business, unfortunately, because it's line of sight. So you got to get up. Now, what you can do, you can say, well, I'm going to get a 40 watt, but I don't want to spend the really expensive cable. I'll just get this size cable. And if you had to go 60, 70 feet, you can do that. You're just going to have wattage drop. So instead of putting out 40 watts to your antenna, you may only have 25. So where that happy point is, I don't know. I just know the theory. I just know what I've been learning. This is what they say. I have used these radios before many, many times. And I know that when I'm on the top of the mountain and someone's at the bottom of the mountain, I can talk to them every time. Usually. When somebody's on the other side, I can usually talk to them. The other side of the mountain, even though there's trees, I can talk to them. But he's on the other side of the ridge, I can't talk to him. These are line of sight radios. Now, if you want to get information that's not line of sight, that's ham radio. That's another radio system. And we've talked a little bit about that, and I welcome you to do it, but that kind skips. So antennas could be on the ground. Fancy base units, special license. Of course, you can do it without a special license to hear. And then it skips. But because it skips off the ground in the atmosphere, they only get certain areas at certain times every day. So it's not consistent. But let's say you had somebody in New York, there'll be some time in the day when skip should hit New York. But you'd have to figure it out. So it's a good way to gather information. But for our purposes, these GMRS are the best. It's all about the antenna. Can we get our antenna up there? Fortunately, the antennas don't weigh a lot. So you can get them pretty high.
This is off the topic, but this is where I'm going. Okay, so how does dispatch, how does the fire station talk to the fire truck?
Same way.
Exact same way, but they have repeaters all over the place. So they have little antennas that are all over the key, and they bounce off of each other.
Yeah, repeaters. We can use repeaters
But
too.
they're like the middle of nowhere
So
sometimes,
can
and
we
they're always
end
on the
up going
radio.
through their repeaters?
Not legally. Remember, here's the radio band. They own these. Somebody else owns these. We get this little one over here. We can't be on their bands.
Oh,
Okay? But they do the same thing. They're line of sight too. That's why they have so many repeaters. When I was at the fire department, you go someplace and be dead because there's no repeater.
so when you say about their line, are you talking about their channel? There's a channel that's just for them?
Channels.
There's a set of frequencies that are
Frequencies.
carved out just for them.
Do you know what a frequency is? I'll give you an idea. Okay, so this
Yeah.
radio right here,
Oh, okay.
this radio could broadcast on
Or something's only like AM.
452.287. That's one frequency. But you can also go 452.289. So there's a lot of frequencies, and the band goes from 0 all the way up to 10,000. Well, FM. You're all familiar with AM and FM channels, right? Those are frequencies. So we have our own little set, which we can use without any trouble. But for it to work, it's all about getting a good antenna. Line of sight. Though ham radio will get you communications, but not consistently, and you may never get TIA. Because by the time it gets up to where it needs to bounce, it almost has to bounce straight back down for you to get her, which could or could not happen.
Well, if it's running just right, you can go all the way around the world. And come,
You can go
from the
all
other
over
side.
around the world. You can skip all over the place. Okay, any more questions? No more questions? Well, if you have any more, feel free to ask. Pete has call numbers. I got call numbers. We're both licensed. Gene's licensed now. Now, if you don't get a license,
Your call number.
The FCC.
FCC. Yeah, mine is
Yeah, you go online.
Whiskey Sierra Echo Whiskey 367. And you're supposed to say that every 15 minutes,
Whether
or
you
at
need to
least
or
when
not.
you're done communication. So if you're
When you're done or when you begin?
when you're done,
Yes.
You
Yes.
say
You have to.
copy 410.
ham,
I mean,
you have to
use
do it
those.
when you start,
You
Oh,
have
when you
to.
stop.
okay.
You have to use the phonetic alphabet. So
Okay.
Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta.
Yeah,
Okay.
but you're only going to get 4.
We don't have to say
Alphabet.
Roger. You don't have to say copy.
No, you
don't
can just
have to-
talk. That's what's good about this, is you can just talk. There's not many people that are going to mess you up, except for they may ask you your call sign. But if you don't
can't-
know, they'll say things like this. You know, you're on the FRS radio. You do not have a license for this. Please get a license. So you'll hear that a lot, and some people may be grumpy about it.
Oh.
So,
Okay, next subject.
okay, next
So
subject.
the
So-
other thing is that they will. You can just turn it on and listen, and so you'll pick up how people are talking and what they're.
Here we
they're
go.
saying.
Okay.
We're going to listen to this guy for a while.
I'm gonna shut this off.
Is it too loud?
No, I'm gonna shut this off.
Okay.